Hi, welcome everyone to today's Audit Tuesday. This session will be focused on the European Union Digital Operation Resilience Act, also known as DORA for short. Today, we have the pleasure of having Ralf Mennegatti, who's a recognized authority in governance, cyber, and compliance. Welcome, Ralf.
Hello, Bill.
First of all, Ralf, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, shortly. I'm since 30 years in the financial services and since more than 12 years independent contractor and advisor in the area of regulatory change. And since 2.5 years, I lead bigger DORA projects in Europe, mostly Germany and Luxembourg. The areas also, of course, in the German-speaking part, Austria, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland. And it is mostly around digital resilience. That means be aware of cyber attacks, be aware of the dangers, keeping your data safe, and so on. So this framework is quite big. I don't know if it's new to any of the people, because I think that DORA is right now live since 17th of January 2025. But thanks to the large requirements, last year was simply just the big start. So it is right now that we are exactly where we are right now, that all the auditors and the regulators come and see what has been done, what needs still to be done, and that's what we're going to discuss today.
Okay, great. Hey, Garrett, do you want to do a quick introduction too?
So we don't. Fantastic. Yeah. Thanks, Ralf, for joining, man. With your EU credentials and your knowledge, you are a must for this webinar on EU DORA. I'm Garrett Grajak, identity guy. We're on a company called YouAttest, and that's what we'll be talking about later. How YouAttest allows enterprises to attest to roles, privileges, and entitlements, okay, which is very relevant, of course, to EU DORA, and we will map it.
Okay, great. So, Ralf, you want to kick us off and tell us where you think we stand and what you think needs to be in place to comply with DORA.
Yes, well, when I have to, very quick summary of last year. Last year, DORA was introduced. They have 5 pillars. The first pillar is, of course, the establishment of a large ICT risk framework, and this framework also then, finds its adequate activities in the real life. That means you have to have also resilience testing in place. For the bigger institutions, there will be even a penetration test necessary. The normal tests are just operational security tests for the whole framework. And also the other part is the exchange of information, then third-party management, because that was also a big part of it, to be in, let's say, to have a level of security everywhere, and especially for the third parties that provide for the financial institutions. And that was for the first time something that has been then addressed in such a, let's say, wide range. So where do we stand right now? Last year was, of course, a setup. That means all the guidelines for all operational areas and IT areas had to be made. And now you need not only, let's say, we say paper is patient, only paper, but you need action. That means you need to have operational systems. And we are speaking right now of IAM. We're speaking of IAM audits that are needed to prove certain things. For example, incident response management was a big thing in ICT risk. That means how do you react to an incident that endangers your data, that endangers your safety, and even your existence when the reputation damage is too big. So we're talking right now about what is actually the role of IAM and IAM audit function, and how can it help you when an auditor is there and when you are subject to DORA compliant testing. Okay.
Great, thanks. And for those organizations just starting to look at DORA, what do you see as their biggest misconception with, about what the regulation actually requires?
Yeah, well, I have right now witnessed and I was myself attested because I work, of course, as an independent contractor. I help a lot of institutions, and I had around about 10 different DORA projects over the last 2.5 years. And right now I help 6 different companies to get through their audits. That means either we help them to improve any audit findings, and also we see what the auditors ask for, right? So right now they ask really for implementations, and if you have not implemented, for example, an SIEM, that means an security check system, or an improvement, or let's say weakness analysis system, or for example a good identity access management plus identity access management audit system. If you don't have that yet, the regulators and the auditors really ask you, when will it be done? Is there a plan? Do you have already made the decision which systems you have, and so on? And all these kind of things are right now really pressuring. That means if you have not yet a plan to implement any of these systems and it is lacking, then the auditor might fine you even, because right now they say, okay, the time to just produce paper and guidelines is over, and now you have to prove that you're operationally intact and that everything, all the controls are in place. That means ICT risk management is a big thing, and the risk management always asks for evidence, right?
Hey, should we let our friend Ralf do a few slides on this overview? Ralf, why don't you take it away?
Yes. Okay. So here I put some core points together for you to have a real feeling what we are talking about today. So when you look at, for example, here the DORA compliance, which is now asked for on an operational level, we are talking. So this means that identity access management, of course, the access of systems is all in the center of everything. That means you need to really be prepared and have everything in place that not only you can monitor, control, and have well-defined roles, but also that all your risk controlling regarding other functions goes always via access, right? So the right people doing the right things with the right access rights. And then you have, of course, at the one hand side, the operations, at the other hand side, the controls at the same time in place. That means when you go then to the second part of the ICT risk management, it is, of course, always so that the access should define which functions are critical or important and what risk appetite is acceptable. And IAM, for example, turns that into concrete entitlements, roles, and segregation of duty rules. So it's very important. Role models, privileged access management, and recertifications are where abstract policies, have just a day-to-day technical reality, and of course you need to have that in place. So the IAM audit function, for example, underlines that DORA is always very proof-driven. So you need to have control risk. You have to show that you can immediately report the access times and the access roles, who did what under which rights. And then, for example, when something happens, you need, of course, then to prove it. And when you can't, that is a very severe violation. That will, of course, immediately tell you that, starting to dig for data when something happened is far too late. So you really need to be proactive here. And can you take the next slide, please? I will here say, I wrote it here: proactive prevention. That is the magic word here. So it's because when auditors come, they will immediately say, "Oh yeah, can you show it to me, or can you create just right now an ad hoc report for me," and so on. So I've witnessed that two times, that they immediately ask for open the application, show me how you do it. So that is really like it's not anymore. Give me a paper and I can read that later. No, it's really real time. It is really saying, okay, guys, you must know that all that what we defined last year is now evident and visible now. So I saw also in two institutions from the asset management where really incidents happened. That means one was a real hack where data was stolen, and the other one was actually more or less an outage of a basic system that also endangered abuse, or let's say a lack of control in terms of we don't know where our data are right now, and we don't know if people with lower access can access data that normally are not for their eyes and ears and so on. So this is also a dangerous situation. So all that happened right now. I really witnessed that with the companies, and then we were then talking about how can we first of all prevent that in the next time, and second of all, if we have to report it to the authorities, what do we tell them? Not in order to either be in danger to face a fine, or how can we, let's say, mitigate that risk immediately. So I come back here now to what you offer, Garrett and team. Find that great why I'm here. It is really great that YouAttest offers that specifically in the audit function, because IAM right now is widely addressed more than the real audit function. And people say, yeah, well, I have maybe an audit function also, and maybe I just need it 2 or 3 times a year. And that's, I think, is the wrong approach, because we are talking here really about a core functionality that really not only can save your life in terms of not getting your head ripped off from a regulator who tells you that it's your core duty to protect your client's data, and that's exactly the case here. Garrett, you want to?
I'll go on top of that. Right, good point. So what Ralf's bringing up is that the EU DORA is quantifying that enterprises need to attest to what roles have access to sensitive data, right? And what are the changes, and what are the roles, and who approve these roles? This is exactly what YouAttest does. We'll do a demo later in the thing. But what it does is it allows enterprises to conduct repeatedly and automatedly a access review of all the relevant privilege, and then creates a document for enterprises to show the auditor, and to also clean up their own enterprises.
Yeah. Can you take the next slide, please?
Sorry. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Here's the next slide. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Garrett.
And Bill.
Ralf,
1 second.
Real quick. One thing to point out too is when we talk about, you bring up that, hey, the auditors come in and they say we want to see what you're doing. We want to see proof and stuff like that. For companies that haven't put in an IAM yet, they always think, oh, maybe we need to put in the IAM, which is going to take X. But if they put the audit tool in first, an audit tool like this, they could be up and running their audits in an hour.
100, great point there, Bill. YouAttest is agnostic to what enterprises has for identity. We're talking a lot about IAM because that's what a lot of enterprises have to control their entities. It plugs right into your IAM. Show a slide on that later. But we're agnostic. We run off of anything. We run off of people's run this stuff using i365, i360, the IBM mainframe stuff, or could be just a SaaS app. But the key is it automates the review of the entitlements that are relevant to whatever regulation or security practice you are practicing.
Yes, that was what struck me is, of course, that first when I heard first of YouAttest, it was clear that okay, it's an audit tool, but the operational benefits were amazing. That means, for example, also you have a super license management. That's thanks to you. I saw how easy it is to see immediately when you're over and under licensed to save a lot of operational money. And also at the same time, you see a lot of, let's say, a dead weight that you have users that left, but still take away your license logins. And also at the same time, you have a lot of, what I also saw in real life was that sometimes when people test functionality, they are given extra rights and they are never revoked. So suddenly somebody has more rights just because he tested something, and then it is never revoked, and he lives on, so to speak, in the enterprise with extended rights, which is of course very dangerous when it comes to, for example, financial institutions. You always have, for example, abusive information. You have information that you can use for dangerous purposes. When you see, for example, payments that you shouldn't see from certain players, or you see accounts and other things that are not for your eyes. So that is something that happened, of course, and that is easily detectable with YouAttest.
Absolutely. All right. Let me remove this. Ooh. Any more questions?
Yeah, what I could say also, what came to my mind was that in terms of normal ways of operational life, YouAttest can of course help you not only in controls but also in forensic evidence. And when you speak, for example, of management, so you have, let's say, a whole range of functionalities that is usable here. For DORA, it is wide strain because DORA and its ICT risk management framework goes into all parts. That means we're talking about the normal application layer. We're talking about, for example, tool layer, everything that is based in systems, even room access nowadays is well, audited. And I worked for investment banks, for example, where the traders, of course, not have the same rooms available and facilities available, for example, than normal accounting people or risk management people. So you have this segregation of duties is also very important to monitor for a lot of different functions. So when you speak of DORA, DORA is everywhere, and the access function is also everywhere. That means it really is not only an IT administration function. It is a function that has to be, and the controls have to be performed by a lot of people.
Hey, Ralf, when you've worked with the auditors, is there a standard set of types of evidence that they look for, or is each one looking for something different? I mean,
actually, it's a classic. What they want to have is an oversight, which users have which kind of access for applications. Then they want to see whether, for example, login sessions are immediately controllable. That means who is right now logged in, or who is logged in unusual times, for example, on the weekend. Then this kind of evidence. And also, of course, if something happens, they immediately want to see if there is let's say, a detection of unwanted access, that means somebody who is an unknown login, or if you speak of stolen identities. It's also interesting if a person says, no, I didn't do that, I didn't access that, but it is the evidence says it. So the likelihood is then, okay, somebody stole the identity and used that to access the system.
Okay, is there a set number of audits they want you to do a year, or is it really up to the company?
Well, actually, I think the audit function itself is, of course, very important, because you have to prepare for the case something happens, and of course for the case something audits you from the outside. That means an outside comes always from the regulator. Mostly he will say, he will pick, for example, 20%, 10% of the industry, and says and sends an army of auditors to the industry to check on them. That means you have to prepare for these cases, and an internal audit is, of course, a brilliant means to improve your security, to be prepared, to be really, not better safe than sorry, and have something in place where I make an audit, for example, once a month, and then I know, okay, that's like safekeeping and keeping everything also in line with the latest states. That means if I don't check that every month, I might slip also some information that's gonna save me money, right? If I make a YouAttest internal check every month, anything within 2 or 3 weeks always pops up then and can be fixed. But if you do that only every 3 months, it might pile up and might even damage something.
Right. And Garrett, I mean, when you think of preparing for DORA from an audit standpoint, what do you think are the practical steps, the 2 or 3 practical steps for moving forward?
Yeah, well, when you're preparing is saying, okay, what do I got my team? What applications I have to do, and who's going to do it? So a real good start for getting ready for DORA and gaining visibility is your IT risk, ICT risk, and critical systems. You have to first identify which systems, which applications have the business functions that need to be audited, okay? Then what we have to do is quantify, okay, what is the right entitlements? What is the least privilege that these users, and this is where most enterprises get really stuck, because they're like, okay, great, I've identified the systems, identified the groups. How do I quantify what is the least privilege? And that's what we automated here in YouAttest. We send out an attestation to the managers and say, should these people have access, these people's and the NHIs as well, non-human identities, should they have access at this level? And lastly, what needs to be done is we have to make this a repeatable process, that the information that is actually gathered is acted upon, okay? And I think that's the biggest flaw in GRC, is that we do all these practices and we don't feed the information back into the systems. And that's what we've automated in YouAttest.
I think that a very strong point is the following. If you have an IAM system, for example, and you are saying, okay, I can manage my access, my roles, and my privileges in our application world, that is fine. Without an audit function, there's only, I would say, you would not make any ICT risk manager happy with that, because the risk manager will immediately come to you and say, if it's not really auditable, if it's not really, if it doesn't have, out of the box an audit function in it, I'm not interested in having that. So the audit function is really the living heart of the whole thing. So that is really, because you have to prevent, you have to detect, you have to respond, and you have to let's say, make a post-incident learning process somehow. So you need to have everything addressed in the whole life cycle. And without audit, I think you're only half prepared. And that is in the terms of an auditor, as you know, he will, kick your butt, excuse my French, but he will really make you suffer, he will really make you suffer.
All right. Garrett, I was thinking that looking forward to doing a demo. Are we?
Give us a few minutes on the demo. What I'm going to do right now is give you an overview of what we are offering here. Okay, let me sit up here and get into here. Here's how YouAttest works. You see the slide?
Yes.
So on the left-hand side, you have what is standard is, some identity practice manager, not an identity, a cyber risk manager, either in security or in compliance. Okay, this he's wrestling with all these different regulations and frameworks, not just EU DORA, but EU DORA being key to this conversation. And we have all these identity stores. Ralph's done a real good job of naming and calling out the IAMs, but we have lots of different systems that are there. What YouAttest does is imbibe all of these identities, okay? And what we do is we take in the metadata. That is who has access to what. That is a key parameter. It's not just the identity, but the identity entitlements. Okay, who's the manager? What's the role? Who's it report to? All that becomes part of the YouAttest system. From there, this is where a risk manager, and this is what our friend Ralf is also trained on, can create the attestation reports and sends out these reports to the relevant managers. These managers review, and you can have stipulations in a product that says, okay, I want this manager. Oh no, I want any manager from the group, or I want every single one of these managers to attest to, or I want this manager, then this manager, then this manager. All that's built in, all that's without code. Okay, that process occurs, and then what it does is it generates a report. It generates a report. It goes back into the IAM, actually the Entra ID and the Okta, and cleans it up. Generates a report, and that report is used in the audits and in your filings, but also kept on record, because what we could do is do subsequent audits and compare that audit with future audits to see what has changed. Mm-hmm. So that's part and parcel of that.
There's also one big benefit that I saw with YouAttest. YouAttest is, let's say, a real clear view upon, let's say, an eagle's eye view upon the whole situation. Because actually, as a manager of, for example, access things, when you say, okay, I have here whatever 15 applications or 20 big applications in my teams, in my different functionality departments, that is easily you lose not only track, but you don't even know how many applications are in the cloud or how are just locally managed. And YouAttest doesn't care, because it has a real clear view upon the control and upon the, let's say, different roles of everybody who is subject to these reports. That means either based on the role, on the access, and on the privilege that you have, you can group it, and you can, let's say, show different aspects of it, disregarding the technological background. Because, for example, if you say, okay, I have a system for my cloud, it can omit maybe very important things. And at the other side, if you say, yeah, I have this here and that there, the auditor will also kill you, because he says, I don't want to have let's say 25 different reports. I want to have one report that shows me all your 100 users, and then it's good, So they will come with requirements that only YouAttest answers, to my opinion.
It looks like we have a question.
Yes.
The audit investigation can sometimes be perceived as a crime investigation, and this puts the auditee in a defense mode.
Yes.
How can we normalize the auditing job to create confidence?
Well, that is the same way how normal applications separate roles and privileges is when you are, for example, if you are a worker for the human resources, that is exactly the perfect example for that. The human resources must work on a very highly confidential level, right? So that means the big deciders, they need to see more, and they need to protect also information from abuse. So they give that information only to these people who need the information, and also they can direct, let's say, the whole picture top down, right? And when you, for example, especially in fraud cases, that is very interesting that you say that. In fraud cases, it is like that this need to know and exact definition of access is then held up against somebody who controls it. That means the controller, he will not change or is not able to change any roles, but he must be able with, for example, a forensics report to see what happened in the fraud case. Why did, for example, a certain person abuse a certain right? Mostly, what is very, very, what I saw is very interesting is either it is a single person who wants to harm either the company or a certain part of the company. That means they steal an identity or they steal an unallowed access, forbidden access towards something, and then you have to prove that. That means what kind of means do you have? You have intrusion detection. You have, for example, all the log files. You have also then you must really see under which login the abuse happened. And of course, then on the other hand, it's very clear that if you want to catch somebody red-handed, that means also that you cannot make suspicious moves, and you must be able to observe and to monitor without being seen. So that's also something that you only can do with very specific audit functions and high-level eagle eye level access and monitoring rights. Hello, Kashif.
Hey, Kashif. How you doing?
Good morning. Hi, Ralf, Bill.
Yes.
Garrett.
Oh, good.
So I hope I could answer that question a little bit, but the essence is the following: if you need to work or to use an audit function for to detect fraud, that's exactly it. You can do that, and you have to define what you audit, what you test, what you prove, you must make your case. And I'm sure that also the team from YouAttest will help you in achieving the different forensic proof of the data that are needed to prove the fraud. So I have we can make an extra webinar for that, how to detect fraud. But this is in this case, I must say, I know 3 or 4 different approaches how you do that. And also it is very often the case that people try to trap them. Say no, we don't catch him right now. We trap him and then we get him. We get that person under control and prove that he did that.
All right, so it looks like we're ready for a demo. So Kashif, do you want to shoot a screen and I'll try to show it to the audience?
Sure, let me just go ahead and do that right away. Okay. All right, you should have the visual. If you let it show on the screen, that'd be great. Okay, it is still backstage.
Oh yeah, let me add the stage.
There we go. So you're looking at the YouAttest dashboard, and this is something that provides you insight into what have you given access to, or who have you given access to, what kind of permissions are there, who can access your applications, who can access your groups, and to get feedback from the person or the people involved, or maybe the managers who should say yes or no to their access. This whole thing automates the whole process. If you need to go after the reviewers, if you need to send out documentation, send out delegations, ask for their opinion, you can use this tool and see what you're dealing with. So it's important to note it can work with as well as without any integration into your IAMs. So if you're thinking, well, we have an IAM, but we don't want to integrate it with that IAM, how do we go about and audit our resources? You can perfectly do that in this audit tool without integrating. But if you integrate with the IAMs that you're using, it will help you identify who the managers are those individuals are reporting to, and you can utilize your IAM data to assign it to those managers. But either way, you will be able to do the audit, and I'll just give you a glimpse of how you can do it. Once you're integrated, you can create these use cases. For example, you can create application audit. You can create group audits to see who has access to which group, and what privileges do they have inherited from the group. And then you can target individual users. Once you create an audit for an application, this is the format it gives you the audit in. For example, it pulled four unique users from a particular application, let's say Salesforce, right? So these are the four people who got access to the Salesforce. Now, how or who would decide whether the access is right or wrong? It's going to be these direct reviewers, the direct line managers, or it could be the application owner that you can send out to. And you can do it by simply clicking auto delegate. Once it gives you the option, who do you want to send it out to, the manager or the application owner, you just need to confirm that. And everything, even if you have thousands of users in here, they will be sent out to their respective managers or respective application owners with one click. But if you don't have that, you want to send it out to somebody else in addition to, or these managers are not the ones you're looking for, then use the manual delegation, for example, and you can choose whoever you want to send it out to. So that's up to you. You want an automated way to detect who the manager is and send out to them, or you can define who the person is. And that's about it. When they receive this notification, they receive the audit, all they have to do is go here, either certify these users and say, this is my recommendation. It goes with your name on it. It goes with the action recommended, and it goes with the timestamp. And all of these reviewers that you send out to will say, well, I would like to revoke these two, but this person needs access, so I would like to certify. And that way you can automatically get their recommendation and make it part of your audit to justify that you have gone into the systems, you have received feedback directly from the owners, and you have implemented revocations wherever they were needed. Right? So that's the whole process of doing it without chasing after anyone with writing a manual email, because that is also automated. The email notifications will keep going to the non-doers until they complete their task, at which point they will stop. So you don't have to write a nagging email to every single user who's not performing the task. It will take care of it itself. Um, the other thing, just before I close this overview, is when you don't have anything tied to your IAM, for example. So if you have legacy applications, if you have any other app that is not connected to your IAM, you can use our CSV module to create an audit. As long as you can export out a CSV file from that resource, you can just upload it to YouAttest, and we will create audit for you in an automated fashion. Saying that, I'll just show you with a few clicks. upload a CSV file that you got from a resource, and the real magic happens on the next page, where you will need to map all the headers that you see on file to what we have on our side of things. Once the mapping is done, go here, save the template, choose that template whenever you come next time, and it will auto-populate it and create the audit for you. So with a few clicks, instead of dealing with an Excel file in a manual fashion, you can use the same file in a CSV format, upload it to the tool, and the tool will create audit for you, which you can, follow the workflow, delegate it to anyone you want, and present it to the auditors after the delegation and review has been made. Right, Garrett? Anything else you would
Fantastic
like me to
stuff.
show?
No, that's great stuff. Yeah. All right. Good deal. Any other things you want to discuss, Ralph, before we talk about the offer for the audience?
Yeah, what I find striking is the time to achieve the goal. That means YouAttest is, to my opinion, one of the fastest operational tools that I've seen in that space, and I've seen a lot in my career.
Fantastic. Good way to introduce it. Yeah. So, Bill, you want to talk about the offer for the audience?
Sorry.
Bill's on mute, I think.
No, there he goes.
Okay.
Here, I'll take it away. Basically,
Yes.
what we're telling the audience right now is that just for joining, you can have the wonderful help of Ralf, who knows this space, knows the regulations, and knows YouAttest. Pick an application up to 100 users, right? And we'll do a 2-week free trial period, managed by our man Ralf at DAQS, and this wonderful tool that Kashif just showed you and I demoed. All right, there we go.
Yes, that is a great offer, and also I would say it gives you really all the options for a good decision without any risk of doing anything wrong in that direction. You cannot do anything wrong by simply testing these core functionalities, and I think the success is programmed.
Fantastic. Just reach out to us at info@youattest.com, info@youattest.com, and mention this, or ping Ralf. You probably have his address over there on LinkedIn or email. I'll let you, Ralf, tell how to get a hold of him. Take it away, Bill.
Of course, and I'm also, everybody finds me on LinkedIn, and
Yes.
So if there's any questions regarding that, of course, I will immediately answer and give you information. And be sure that we will always keep you also up to date. That means my intent is also to regularly inform you, either via webinars or via presentations, and you will always find good regulatory information by me. Not only DORA, of course, other things are coming up. Regulatory world is never boring. I don't know if you think that, but I think that because I'm doing it since 12 years exclusively. So what can I say?
Fantastic. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Kashif. Thanks, Ralf.